MrTransformers96 here with another movie review, and this time I'm gonna review Despicable Me 2. I didn't know if I was gonna review it because I used to review the cartoons that had toys. I used to review those when those came out, but I've kind of like stopped, so I didn't know if I was gonna review it. And then I did get Overlord Toy Reviews. He asked me if I was going to, so then I was like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. So now I'm gonna review it. So yeah, so I saw it, I've seen it, and overall really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the first one. I thought the first one was going to be good, but, didn't know what to expect. That one turned out to be great. I really do like Despicable Me 1. And number 2, in a lot of ways, was better. Other than seeing Gru as, like, a really evil person, because in that movie, of course, he was evil and he was mean to people and stuff, which was always fun to watch. And in this movie, he wasn't so much, which makes sense. I was glad that they didn't have him, like, go back to the way that he was in the beginning of Despicable Me 1, because he totally changed at the end. So I like that they still kept him changed, but still made him interesting and funny. And I was a little worried that it would just be Minion overload. I mean, Minions are awesome, but I was really hoping that they wouldn't, totally just make it all about the Minions, because, I mean, the first, like, 2 or 3 trailers didn't even have Gru in it. It was just about the Minions. So I was hoping that wouldn't be the case, and it wasn't the case. I mean, the Minions were definitely in it more. When Gru went somewhere, typically the Minions would come along, at least a couple of them, and which wasn't the case in the first one. So they definitely were integrating the Minions in more, but I liked it, and I thought that they really fit. They weren't forced to be in the movie just because they're popular. They seem to be actually, definitely have their parts and everything, which was really good. A couple of the new characters, the woman, I forgot her name, but Gru's love interest, she was pretty good. When I first saw her, she was a bit annoying, and I was really hoping that they wouldn't make her annoying, because that would have been something that they could have easily done, is just had her goofy and klutziness kind of come off to be really annoying. But the times they had her be goofy and stuff like that, and then the times that they made her not be like that for some times, because it wasn't like Overlord. Oh, jeez, I can't even talk today. It's not Overload with her being crazy and stuff. So she was a cool character, and it was nice to see Gru interact with somebody like that, and that was fun to see. The girls, one thing that they did is that out of the 3 of his girls, Edith, Ednith, and I don't know their names. I have so much trouble with their names. But the middle one, the one that's, middle height, middle age, she was really underdeveloped in the first movie, and they didn't do much with her. She was just kind of there. And because she's one of my favorites, so I was really hoping that they do more with her. And yet again, she was totally didn't have her own story again, because the smallest girl wanted a mother, and that was her whole thing. And the oldest girl had a relationship with Macho's child. I don't know his name, but yeah. So they each had something going on with them that had to do with the story, except for the middle one. The middle one was just there, and she didn't have her own story. I really don't like how they really just play her off and don't do much with her, because but she's an interesting character. So I definitely want to see more of her, and didn't yet again. So I mean, I'm sure that they'll do a 3rd movie, and maybe we'll get something more with her in the 3rd one. The only reason that I understand it is that there was a lot going on with a lot of stuff, because there was so many characters that they all had their own thing going. So I guess if they added the middle child to have a story, she just that would just be way too much. So I get it. So it's not horrible that she doesn't have one, but yeah. So yeah, the Minions, they're hilarious. I mean, nothing bad I can say about them. They were in the movie more, which is cool, but they weren't in it too much, and overall love that. As far as the villain in this movie, the whole thing... Oh, sorry. Before I talk about him, I just want to say I do have my drawing here. I forgot to talk about that. I just drew that. It's one of the yellow Minions in the middle, and then all the purple Minions all around him. I just drew that a second ago, so I thought I'd add that into this video, so just wanted to share that with you. And so the villain, the Macho, whatever, it's something Macho, I don't know. In this movie, they made it seem like they didn't know who the villain was, and Gru was supposed to go do some detective work and find out who this villain was. And I was hoping that it wouldn't be obvious. I really wanted it to be where I didn't know who it was going to be, and it absolutely was obvious. I mean, the second that he walked in, you pretty much knew it was him. And then when Gru said that he looked like this other guy that he knew, or, had heard of, then it was just done. I absolutely knew it was him, and I never changed my mind again in the movie, and I was really hoping it wouldn't be that way. So there was no mystery with the villain for me at all, and I think for a lot of people, not at all. So unfortunately, I wish that it would be that it was a little better, but hey, that's a small thing. One thing that I really didn't like, and this was just because of me, it doesn't have anything to do with the movie itself, is that the purple minions were only at the end. I understand why they were only at the end, but I wanted to see more purple minions because I love them so much. So they were awesome when they were in it. It must be really hard to animate them because of their twitchiness and their hair. It must be much harder to animate them than the yellow minions. So I kind of understand why they'd be in it less, but I was really hoping that they'd be in it a lot. And although when they were introduced, they were in it a lot, they were introduced very close to the end, so that was a shame. But they were awesome. I mean, just like I saw World War Z when it came out. It came out a couple weeks ago, and when you got the zombies climbing up each other to get over that wall, they totally had that with the purple minions, because Gru and a couple minions were climbing up places, and when the purple minions were chasing them, they'd start climbing on top of each other over the wall. It totally looked like World War Z, which was so awesome to see with purple minions. I absolutely loved it, man. These purple minions are great. I absolutely loved them. And at the end of the movie, the last character that we see is the purple minion that pops up at the end. I'm sure that they will have one purple minion in Despicable Me 3. He'll just be a token, purple minion that's just kind of there, and he's friends with the yellow minions, but is always just in the background doing something crazy. And I'm sure that we'll have one purple minion in Despicable Me 3. I guarantee it. So I hope, at least. So that'll be awesome. And the comedy, I thought it was really funny. One of the funniest animated movies I've seen in a long time, if not ever. I have to say, I was laughing pretty much all the time in the movie. It was a nice steady pace of the humor. It didn't feel very dry at all in the movie, and it didn't feel overly comedy in the movie. It was just a nice steady pace of comedy. Really enjoyed it. Loved the new characters. The story, although there was a lot happening and some of it was a little goofy, it wasn't bad. I definitely did like it, and it wasn't too crazy where it's not enjoyable. It was very enjoyable, and the comedy was hilarious. The last thing I wanted to say is the macho guy, when he injected himself in the purple with the purple stuff, I felt that was a little overkill to have the big purple monster, fight Gru at the end. That was a little annoying, didn't need it, but hey, it didn't really matter. Oh, and the one thing I will say is the one aspect that I think of Despicable Me 1 that they really didn't have was a good villain, which was fine, because because they didn't have a main villain. Well, they did, but it wasn't a strong villain, which allowed more time for Gru to be to have this relationship with his daughters. So it was kind of neat that the villain wasn't much in the movie. I definitely liked it like that, but they did improve in that and made the villains he had a whole army of purple minions, of course. So they did, of course, fix the problem, if you can say it's a problem with the first one, that the villain wasn't a very strong villain whatsoever. So it was nice to see. Overall, love the movie. Enough blabbering. I've spent almost 9 minutes talking about this movie. It's a great movie. Very enjoyable. Very funny. If you've got kids, take your kids to it, and you'll have a great time too. Because it's very funny to adults and the older audiences. I don't really laugh at the little kiddie stuff. So the humor was pretty adult in a lot of the places, which is great, and was not restricted to just children humor, which is fantastic. So you'll enjoy it. Anybody that sees this movie is going to enjoy it. I 6-year-olds to 96-year-olds, I think that they'll enjoy it just about the same. I can't imagine a human being that wouldn't like this movie. It's a fun, good, funny time. So there you go. That's my review. I loved it. I love the toys, as you can see, and thanks for watching.